Well, hello. Hi. Howdy. Oh, my puppy said, ooh. I did not get the lighting quite right, but I'm here at 11:11 like I said I would be. So I'm giving myself a little pat on the back. It is day 9 of my 10-day reset and day 8 of my Shadow Mandala project. And it's going well. Not that I would expect it to not go well. I mean, I don't know how it could not go well, I suppose, because doing the work, it reminds me of like when you go to the gym, right? When you go to the gym, even if it doesn't, like, maybe sometimes you have the best time at the gym ever, but even at those times when it's not that, it's still not bad. And I feel like shadow work, this kind of internal work or work on my emotional fitness, my self-mastery is always good. It regardless of how good it is, it's good. So that said, as I mentioned, I got here just a hair later than I wanted to. So let me do a little settling in with some sound. I've been studying a lot about sound healing. Just taking a little extra time to center myself into the moment. Something I have been successfully doing more often, and I think is such a key component of self-healing, which is the kick that I am on. As I mentioned at the start of this reset, I'm really sick of feeling sick, tired of my own shit. Clearly, I'm succumbing to false beliefs or limiting beliefs that are underlying what I'm saying and thinking that I'm thinking, if that makes sense. So shadow work is a way of getting underneath the surface a little bit, getting deeper than just that first layer of when we ask a question and trying to see what is in that underlying subconscious framework, which is so much more vast than our conscious minds. And I am using a framework of archetypes plus a mandala as a very nice partnership of a way to have a frame and structure, and then invite that more unstructured, what I like to call the wild, because the subconscious speaks in sounds and feelings and movements and colors, symbols, more than logic or sentences. So as much as I love sentences, I have been getting into the symbolic work and using a mandala, which is just a very handy framework as I develop my shadow mandala workbook, which was inspired by doing this work for myself. And will mention, if you're interested, I will be happy to send you a free digital copy of that just for the asking. But I am getting ready to publish it on Amazon. And here is one of 2 examples that I've been going through during this project, so that I will have some examples to put in my workbook. And just to give you a quick recap, this one has 9 sections, and I have another one that also has 9 sections, but it's has 8 sections around the circle and then 1 section in the middle. So today I finished filling out number 8, and that is based on the question, is my chaos aligned? And kind of spontaneously, I didn't pre-think any of these. That would really defeat the purpose. But I did like how, so I started with like a broken chain idea just in my weird sketch, and then came to like a split road, and then it turned itself into what looks to me like a Salvador Dali-esque kind of picture. And it was reminding me how the human mind wants to make meaning of everything. And so how much, when I ask myself, is my chaos aligned, I was thinking about how much I oscillate between chaos and order, how as soon as I feel chaotic, my natural tendency is to create order from that chaos. And then as soon as I see order, my natural tendency is to start to create chaos out of that. And I don't know if that is a universal human trait, or I imagine even if it is, that there's the different, that we get different amounts of it, different of us. I didn't say that very well, but I think you know what I mean. And in this version, number 8 is here, and I was exploring the wise old maid, or the crone, or the wise elder. And I found myself drawing this spiral, which is a symbol that I relate to very much, and often represents that cycles of life, the way that history repeats or rhymes even as we expand. And then just now I was kind of playing with that idea and found myself playing with maybe the Grinch Who Stole Christmas idea of an expanding heart, and how as we go through these loops, my capacity to feel, my capacity to love has expanded. And then in between that, I was filling in, which a thing that is unrecognizable right now, but probably appropriately so, because in my mind it's like the skin that you have to shed, your former self. You have to let go of the version of you that you were in order to step into that new version with a bigger heart. And in some aspects, you have to let your heart be broken open, and there's also like an ego death aspect, to let go of the identity that you had when you were capable of loving in a certain way to a certain degree. And as your heart is broken open and you step out of that old skin, former side of yourself, then you find yourself in a larger hearted version of yourself. Again, all symbolic metaphor, but I was enjoying playing with that, and I think there's a lot of truth in that. I have my first grandbaby on the way, which is right on time with me entering menopause, still a little bit in perimenopause, and that, of course, has me naturally thinking about the elder role. I'm also still single at about to be 55, revolutions around the sun. And I have had some really wonderful partnerships, so I feel lucky for that. And overall, I feel I'm not lamenting that I have not been married, even though I sometimes do find myself lamenting that I don't have the type of healthy, strong relationship that I expected to have at this stage of life. I'm still working on that with myself, as it turns out. And maybe that has something to do with this chaos portion. Is my chaos aligned? I tend to embrace this chaotic artistic, beyond my control aspect. I really like Elizabeth Gilbert's speech on genius and the muses and how freeing it can be to give our genius over to something more external, like the Greeks used to do to the muses. And when we think of our genius as something that visits us rather than something that we have or even can cultivate, then it takes a lot of the pressure off so that we can be more creative. We just show up every day and be our most playful, joyful, creative selves. And then if the muses show up, then voila, bravo, ole, all of that. And if they don't, oh well, it's just another regular day, right? I think that said, little tangent I want to add, just another regular day is, in my opinion, one of the keys to life. One of the great secrets to life is to learn that every day is just another regular day. And the more of those we can make meaningful, or I was going to say exceptional, but I don't know if exceptional is quite the right word, but yeah, the more of those we can really squeeze the juice out of, so to speak, or just enjoy, savor the flavor of, even when we're not squeezing the juice out of it. I mean, that's what adds up to our whole lifetime is the majority of those are just the regular everyday days. Because if they were like, if they were all that, then that would be the new level, right? Which it is indeed the life that we're living in. When you think about the days that most of us are living in right now, if you're watching me on the internet, then you are among those humans that are living a life of more luxury than the top humans could imagine 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Probably. I don't, I wasn't there. I'm not them. I don't really know. I have this is chocolate flavored bone broth that I have acquired a taste for with monk fruit sweetener. So it's got a little sweet, but not sugar boost, and a lot of protein and collagen. And yeah, I discovered it just a few months ago, and it's one of my new favorites. But it is a little sweet. I think they have a version that is savory that I'm going to be looking into. In any case, tomorrow I start my last day of this 10-day reset. And I will say that I feel like I have shed a lot of skin, a lot of my old self, and will be stepping into a much expanded heart space. Already can feel that expansion. And that is why I do this work, and why I'm excited to hold the space for others to do this work. It's the kind of work no one can do for you, just like going to the gym. You can learn a bunch, you can think about practice, you can watch other people do it, but until you actually go to the gym and do the practice, and to the gym is just a symbolic of, it's not necessarily a metaphor. Going to the gym is great, but you don't have to go to the gym in order to spend some time moving your body, working on your physical fitness is really what I was getting at. And what I've been working on for some years now is emotional fitness, aka self-mastery. Really, self-mastery is about all those components to my thinking. There's physical fitness, there's emotional fitness, there's relational fitness, there's financial fitness, probably other kinds of fitness. And I mean, that's obviously just a way of breaking it down. There's just the whole you, right? How much are you enjoying those day-to-day moments? How are they adding up? And being that it's the end of a year, the end of 2025, which is a biggie, it feels like to me. I don't know if you feel that, but I felt like it was very significant in my life personally and to us collectively, humanity, that is. And yeah, 25, it's a nice number, right? 2025 is a nice number. And also, it was a lot historically coming together and falling apart at this particular time in our collective history. Little tangent story I want to tell you about a student that I had a couple years ago. One of my favorite students of many. They were all my favorites on some level. But this student asked me some great questions. It was sad to me that this student and so many others in this room this classroom I was working in was a English as second language classroom. And they had thrown all the kids who struggled with reading and writing for various reasons together in this room in cycles. It was a junior high, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So I had about 50 students throughout the day in groups of 5 to 10, sometimes even as few as just 3. And I think I had one prep period or layover period with more students than that. But in any case, I got to know them pretty well in the 5 weeks that I was subbing there, spread over a couple of months, because they didn't have a teacher all year. And I will refrain from going further down that rabbit hole and talking about our school system. But this student, among all the others, was feeling really down about himself. And a lot of them would say things like, "Oh, I'm stupid. That's why I'm here." And the system, I feel like the system really failed me, and it's really failing all these kids even more than it was failing me when I was a kid. And I feel really lucky that even though the system has failed me on so many levels, I have been able to navigate it for better and worse, but better than some of the kids that I work with might be able to, again, for better and worse. But anyway, all that is tangents to a tangent. This student that I had used to ask me great questions, and one of the ones he asked me that just came to mind now and comes to mind frequently was, when does history start? And I can remember contemplating that type of question when I was his age, or I still contemplate it, but I thought it was really neat the way he phrased it and the timing of when he was contemplating it, because amidst him being told that he was stupid and being put in this room where there was no learning going on to speak of, and him wondering, him being in puberty, pre-puberty, trying to start to figure out how to become a young man, all kinds of things going on, that he was contemplating history and how it gets maybe written or determined. Gave me great hope for the world. So that's why I share it with you now, even though that was I realized that was a lot of tangents upon tangents. I think it's important right now to keep hope. And that is probably the thing that this 10-day reset is sinking in for me the most, is as I upheave my own shadows and look for the gifts in them, I'm looking for patterns, because that's where the truth is from my perspective. And in the pattern that's coming up for me again and again has to do with this spiraling, this cyclical nature, and the things that have repeated in my life. And one of those is celebration. To celebrate. And I think humans really need that right now. Somewhat ironically or not, another one of those that came up big for me is grief and death, and holding space, safe space for the passage for the transition from one state to another, which is what we call death. Because right now people are so afraid of dying that they're not living for the most part. And that I feel, I hesitate to say called, because that's become a word that rubs me the wrong way a little bit, but I genuinely do feel like a calling to hold safe space for death and for celebration. in an interesting way at the same time as we go into this next era, this new phase. So I am really excited about the online communities that I'm building, which, by the way, there should be links to, and you can find through searching for the Authentic Action Academy and or the Human Reboot Dojo. I have some other stuff, but those are the main two containers that I am holding space for right now. And in both of those containers, I will be helping one-on-one clients and small groups go through the framework that I outlined in my book, The Shift, Own Your Emotions, Own Your Life, which is based on that word, SHIFT, and that stands for see your story, hold a safe space for it, invite and investigate, maybe integrate, feel your feelings, get into flow, and then transform your life by transmuting those feelings, up leveling. That's as you're going around that spiral, you're taking the lessons and you're expanding yourself, expanding your capacity. And the more we all do that, the more amazing this life gets. That's what I really truly believe. And I truly believe that I'm not alone in this sense that we are in this like a mega meta transition period. I'm a woman, so I'm basically always in a transition period in some regard, but I feel like there's like a cosmic transition going on and a big transition in humanity and a big transition in global politics and in economics, so many ways that we're transitioning and basically having to leave behind that old identity and step into the new hotness. Are you ready? I think I'm getting ready. I did not feel ready a couple years ago. I felt really hopeless, and I want to share that because I think a lot of people are feeling hopeless right now, and I often find myself going through things a little bit before it seems like mainstream society goes through it, and then I feel like I'm here to be sometimes like the canary in the coal mine, as they say, and sometimes a guide who has, maybe that's a bodhisattva, right? Somebody who has gone through it and come back around to help guide through it. And when it comes to suffering and grieving and feeling lost and hopeless, I've been through it. I fucking get it. I know what it is. I know what it feels like. And that's why I can confidently say there is a way through it. There is hope on the other side of that. Not only is there hope, but there is expanded capacity. There is broader, sharper sight. So I hesitate there to say that because that's ironic, because I have been noticing my vision changing again recently, just as I embrace more of this, what feels like an internal vision, which really I feel like I kind of came into, you might say, kicking and screaming into this spiritual work, as it's often called. There was definitely a correlation to my eyesight becoming problematic. And I've, probably part of that kicking and screaming sense that I've had is I really prided myself in having this sharp external vision, like a 15-20 vision, great night vision. I could lead people in the dark when other people couldn't see. And I still have, I'm grateful. My vision is still not terrible, but it's definitely not what it was. And as it started to go fuzzy in my mid-40s, as it often does to people, at least in our culture, I thought I was right on the precipice of a certain growth cycle, and probably I was, but I found myself very like without, it didn't feel like I had any time to catch my breath or reset any safety nets before I found myself spiraling into a much deeper growth cycle. In many ways, it feels like. And again, and I'm just starting to be able to feel really grateful for all of that. It's taken some time. I was just last night laying in bed feeling genuinely grateful to someone who hurt me really profoundly a few years ago. And I can see now how that without that hurt, I wouldn't be growing into what I'm growing into now. I would be stuck in that pseudo comfort that so many humans get stuck in. And I mean, I don't blame you if you're one of those humans right now in a comfortable enough, things are fine, if they're okay, if you can handle it, you're not happy, you know it's not right, but it's you're gonna stay with a crappy hand because you don't want to lose worse. I understand that, and I'm not trying to encourage anybody to do anything other than that. Like, we all get our hand, so to speak, in life, and I think that's one of the best things about life, is that we get to play our own hand the way that we want, and no one else is in your body, and no one else is you in your life, so no one else knows what's the best thing for you. That said, I've had some great coaches in the last few years that have really helped me, and I'm looking forward to holding that space as calling myself a therapeutic coach. I have a lot of training as a body worker, as a somatic therapist, and I'm bringing that together with my knowledge in coaching, a little bit of NLP, and then a little bit of my wild artist creative flow technique to the table to create safe spaces for us to do the practice. As I started to explain the shift out of my book behind me, the Shift Lab will be a place where we can practice these techniques. I will be holding some one-on-one sessions to the best of my ability. I obviously can only do so many of those, and there's not very many of those, but then I will also be doing some group containers so that I can help more people. And I have some free content like this is, and I also will have some low dollar content and some high dollar content, because what I have found for myself is that the more I put into something, when I invest money into something, I'm more likely to show up for it and do the work. And so I'm clear on that, to where now I'm going to hold that container for others. So if any of this is sounding like something you're interested in, you want to check out, again, there'll be a link somewhere down there. You can check it out for free, and then you can give me money if you want my help with accountability and growth in 2026. And that said, I still want to say some more, which is that I didn't finish talking about celebration. I was listening to Teal Swan actually yesterday talk about her predictions for 2026. And she mentioned that we humans really need to celebrate more. I've been saying this since before the pandemic lockdowns, but now, again, I feel capable of holding the space that I had started to try to hold, and then feel like I fell down pretty hard. We need to get together more around the fire, tell stories, create new stories, just share stories, because that's what gives our lives meaning, because we co-regulate other hearts around us. And it doesn't have to be just humans. We can co-regulate with other animals as well, which is really nice. But humans are a special thing. And I think, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting together more after feeling like I had a long break. So I'm going to be hosting, I have committed, as of last night, I committed to at least 4 events this year. I really want to say I'm going to do 6 or 12, but I'm going to commit to publicly 4. And at least 2 of those are going to be like way outside my comfort zone, art show, multi-sensory, multi-medium events. I've been thinking about them for so long, and that, let's call it a calling, has come up for me so many times that it is silly for me to just keep letting years go by and not address it, not try, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. Thanks for stopping by. I see somebody has joined me, and I didn't even say hi. I don't think he left me a chat. I'm still learning how to use the chat. Part of my intention for this whole project has been to get more comfortable with the live streams, and that has been a success. And so I will be using this medium more. I'm probably going to figure out how to do like a pre-schedule so you can know ahead of time and hopefully join me and get better with the live chat. And onward and upward we will grow. I hope you're remembering to get some on you. Whatever you're into out there, making the most of this end of 2025. We got 2-3 days left and we're into 2026. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I did not see that coming, I was going to say, but 2026, I wasn't sure we would make it at times, but I guess you could see it coming because it's right after 2025. Anyway, yeah. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. I hope you're feeling hopeful. And if you're not, come hang out with me a little bit. I'll see if I can't rub some hope off on you. Until then, ciao for now.